Come on. There we go. All right. We are finally live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Stoa Poikile. We are going to be discussing tonight historical sources, historical science, and the problems that are contained within it. I'm here with, of course, the Abominable History Man and Beethoven. I'll just have you do your name because I'm not sure about it. So
It's a tough one. Methevan Bazusto.
that's it. I know because you go by a couple different names, and I'm trying to figure out which one it is. So these two gentlemen, I want everybody to bear in mind, teach. They are professors in this kind of stuff. They have advanced degrees in this stuff. I am still a student, so I will often defer to their expertise on this for good reasons. So to start this off, though, I want to offer something that's going to give us an example of what we're talking about when we're talking about historical context and historical sources and how you need to read between the lines. And it's an anecdote that comes from Suetonius's Lives of the 12 Caesars about the deified Vespasian. It is actually paragraph 7 on page 265, and it goes as follows, and just a little bit of context to this. Suetonius is talking about, in the course of this biography, all the divine portents that showed that Vespasian was going to become emperor, and this deals with one of them that is very important. And I will start now. And so, having embarked upon civil war, Vespasian sent leaders and troops ahead to Italy, while he himself crossed over to Alexandria to take possession of the gateway to Egypt. Here, wishing to consult the auspices concerning the duration of his hold on the empire, he dismissed all who were with him and entered the temple of Serapis alone, and when having made many offerings to the god, he finally turned around. It seemed to him that the freedman Basilides had brought him sacred branches, garlands, and cakes, as is the custom there. Yet he was well aware that no one had let this man in, and moreover, that he had for some time been scarcely able to walk because of a nervous disorder. It was indeed far away, and at that very time letters arrived reporting the troops of Vitellius, got to turn the page, had been routed at Cremona, and that Vitellius himself had been killed in Rome. Now, the thing that is important here in this context for everyone is that name Basilides. Now, for myself and Richard and Beethoven, the term Basilides is derived from Basileus, or king. And this is a literary device that Suetonius is using to once again show us the divine intervention that's going on, or what he perceived to be divine intervention in Vespasian's career, and that he was chosen by the gods to literally do this. If you don't recognize that name and recognize what it's derived from, you miss it completely. And so it's likely that this entire anecdote is probably something that is just added by Suetonius. So I'll now open everything up so that people can discuss just that kind of thing, where we have to recognize when the author is using a literary device or something like that to convey what he's trying to say.
Yeah, that's certainly a consideration to be made. I can think of a good example from biblical literature as well. I believe it's one of the Synoptic Gospels. I want to say it's Luke. Was Luke the one who was the historian? I don't know. I'm not very familiar with biblical literature as it is, but one of the Synoptic Gospels is written by someone who's very historical, and he's trying to basically tell the tale of Jesus to a young follower whose name is Theophilus, or however you might pronounce that. I'm actually not sure, which in Greek means lover of God. And really, the question is it's kind of like a pun. Is this actually to a specific person, or is that meaning to be toward anybody who is a lover of God, meaning anybody who is a new Christian? It's one of, so it just made me think of that. That's one of those like cute little things where the name itself, the way you read that, can take on two completely different meanings. Was this document written just to evangelize this one person, or was it meant to evangelize the general idea of someone who is a new Christian, someone who has come into that cult?
From my field, slightly different, but the same thing is when you look at texts that talk about the passions and the emotions and things like that, you will hear quite regularly talk of being tossed on shipwrecked seas. To the point where a guy called Thomas Wright, when he wrote a follow-up to his original book, which was an expansion of the original book, he claimed that the original book was lost on a shipwreck in the shipwrecked seas and blown ashore. And I know I've actually read very good scholars who said, "Oh, you see, he was trying to make out that he dropped it in the water. Isn't that bloody ridiculous?" When I think he's basically saying, "Oh, crap." You know, that's what it made me angry, so I threw it away and started again. But someone got hold of the old manuscript and published it, that bastard. And if you don't know these things, if you're just reading these texts blind to the tropes that exist, you can get in trouble, and it happens a lot.
It's absolutely the case too. Reading music theory treatises from the Middle Ages,
Yeah.
there must be 10 different ways that they translate the word tonus or tone. It's not used in the same way. Like 10 different treatises will use that word in 10 different ways, and you actually have to figure out from context what they're talking about.
Yeah.
You can't go into it just with your understanding of what that word might mean, what its usage is in that context.
Yeah, absolutely. Context is everything. And so, like, reading is important, not just reading the one thing and going, I know it now, especially not if it's Wikipedia, folks. So.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's worth bringing up here for a minute, that the reason that Wikipedia as a source is because, one, a lot of the time the information is, as Richard was just talking about, the information is actually not contextual, or it's not presented in a very good way, and that's why we tend to there's something more needed. There has to be a little bit more added to it before one can accept it. Now, going there and finding sources, that's okay, but as a source itself, no, it doesn't work.
No. No, I'm just going to put in the comments section on this video for everyone to refresh, because people are saying they can't see us. So, right, done.
Wait, what are they saying?
I've just got lots of refresh. Try to refresh. It's not working, and one person said hallelujah. So obviously someone's getting it right.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how to use this technology. So.
Well, so are they, by the looks of it. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, this is a first attempt on this kind of thing with me, so I don't know what the hell I'm doing at this point.
Yeah. So we're on translation. Oh dear, I spent an entire day 3 weeks ago debating nothing but translation. Translation studies, translation theory, translation technique, translation methodology. I just wanted to come home. At this point of, oh, stop. How do you translate something back into its own language? What are you talking about now? It was in Germany. They do that kind of thing. But yeah, it is a very sticky thing that people take a version of. There are good translations and bad translations, right? I've got here the Loeb Library Classics of Cicero.
Oh yeah.
Which double text. Now the English in these is excellent. I often will just read that and not bother with the Latin because it's better than I could do it. So, there's some serious Latinists. I mean, the ones who know their archaic Latin from their slightly archaic Latin and that kind of thing done this. But there are also those that you get from, I don't know, cheap off the internet or online and stuff, who miss the, shall I say, the art of translation, which isn't just changing one lot of words into this equivalent in another language. And I will often have people come to me or they'll write an essay and they'll say, this book said that, and I'm thinking, did it? And I'll go and find the original and I'll read it and go, no, it didn't. Why did it say that? And then I'll realise some really bizarre, terrible translation of a particular phrase could have, if you squint and stand on one leg, mean what they've got, and then I'll trace back to some awful websites where they've just translated it almost word for probably using Google Translate, from what I can tell.
Google Translate doesn't work for most languages.
Yeah, that's the problem. It doesn't work. You might as well just try and get a book out and do it yourself.
Yeah, there's a wonderful thing online where somebody Google translates lyrics from popular songs through 4 languages, then sings them. So she's done something like, for example, she did "Let It Go" from what's it called, Frozen, and the chorus is now "Give up, give up."
I've got to see that. I've got to see that.
Yeah, and I think she did "Wrecking Ball," and it became "Put the ball in the sink." Put the ball in the sink. That's the problem with translating like for like. It doesn't often work.
So some languages just do not have even remotely the same structures as English. One of the things that I translate a lot is Celtic languages. I do a lot of Welsh translation, and Welsh grammar is really not compatible with English grammar. It's very difficult to take an actual Welsh sentence and match it up with English. And if you put something Welsh through Google Translate, it comes out as complete gibberish. It might be one of the worst Indo-European languages to try with Google Translate.
I actually have I have some books now to try and teach me Welsh at some point as soon as I get my Latin, my Greek under control, which I need to get under control first. But I was looking at the grammar, and I think you're absolutely right. There's too many weird changes in it to work well in something like Google Translator. So you really do need the human element to go through and translate anything to me. I think that's the best way to actually do any kind of a translation. Get a person in there and do it.
Yeah. And one thing about learning languages for history, as I still am, I'm actually just starting Biblical Hebrew because I'm bringing some of it into what I'm doing at the moment is a little bit longue durée, and it goes back into the Hebrew Bible. So I want to actually not take anyone else's word for it, as you don't. But yeah, it's an interesting language, Biblical Hebrew. That's the polite way of saying fucking awful. But you've only got to read it. You don't need to be able to speak it, and there is a different part of the brain for that. So you're only doing half the job as a historian. Just learn to read it.
Yes.
I can't see any time when it's going to be really important for me to be able to speak Latin fluently, short of some freak accident in a time machine. I end up in Rome. Even then, they probably won't understand it because I'm pronouncing it all wrong. So.
Oh, absolutely! You guys would hate the way we musicians pronounce Latin because we do it the Vatican style. So.
Yeah, it drives me crazy sometimes. I'll be listening to something in music, and I'm like, I can't understand this. I don't know what they're saying anymore.
Well, we sing Excelsis Deo. You would hate it.
There is a tale, I forgot who it is. The Bishop of York went to Rome to speak to the Pope, and he had such a strong Yorkshire accent when he spoke Latin, he had to have a translator to translate to Latin so the Pope understood him. So I once had a Latin teacher said, I don't care how we pronounce it, so long as we understand it, because of that story. I have a theory. I'm going to give you my theory about Latin. Right. My theory is that the Italian accent is a lot older than people think it is. They all say it's Tuscan, and it came from Tuscany. But I think the reason I think that in Cicero's Tusculan, it's apt, Disputations. And the first line, which is, and at last securing a complete or at any rate a considerable release from the toils of advocacy and from any sartorial duties, blah, 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 is cum defensorium laborios centurisque muniquarios ut omnio et magna ex parte essentium aliquando libertarius. But say it in an Italian accent, and it sounds great. Cum defensorium laborios centurisque muniquarios ut omnio et magna ex parte essentium aliquando libertarius.